We've been getting earlier and earlier every week.
We are early. Hey, y'all. It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Show 21 on the 21st. How about that?
That's interesting. 2 days before Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah.
Thankful for the show. Good to see you too, man.
If I don't see you multiple times per week, man, something's wrong. This podcasting thing.
Yeah.
Rocco's, I mean, I'm sure he's going to cringe when he sees the schedule, but I got multiple panel shows scheduled.
Love it.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I like talking.
So we're going to talk about envy today as the main subject, but we're going to get there in a couple different ways. So let's touch on a couple of things that have been going on this week.
Okay.
So she wrapped up his visit to San Francisco and her dog and pony show. They whisked the homeless off the street as predicted.
And what was funny to me, like, and did you see Gavin Newsom's interview? He's like, when you have guests come over your house, you clean up. It's like, what the fuck is that, dude? Like, how about you just take care of the problem? Like, homeless people, that's a problem that needs fixed. Like, not people you just clean up. Like, you made that was such an inhumane thing to say. Yeah, and it was like, and this is a guy that wants to be president, and he's basically comparing homeless people to things you clean up in your house. Like, if anybody with a good conscience could vote for that dude, then you need to rethink some things. Right? Yeah, it's like, what in the actual fuck? Like, it blew my mind. When I heard that, I'm like, I can't believe this.
I don't think from the reporting from all sides, it doesn't appear to be that much headway was made between Biden and Xi while he was here. I didn't hear jack shit about anything between Newsom and Xi when he was here. I don't know if those conversations happened. If they were behind closed doors. There were some business leaders that met with Xi while he was here. Apple, Microsoft.
Yeah. The part I heard was that Biden's main topic or focus was climate change. And they were like, what? She doesn't give a fuck about climate change. They're creating more coal plants now. Like, they're creating all these coal plants and more permits in construction permits for coal plants than ever before. And they're saying, they just want it as a backup energy source in case the renewables work. That's bullshit. They couldn't care less about climate change. And that's going to be the agenda topic we talk about. Like, are you shitting me?
No. Something is oddly going on, and both of us will admit that we're not geopolitical scholars, but something is going on. I think with Xi's stability within his own country, it appears to be that his regime, his reign there, is on shaky ground to a degree. Because it seems like that hard line he's been touting for almost like 18 months now is like softened. He's on this world tour. He's not talking about the aggressiveness of Russia and Iran. He's kind of backed away from all of that.
Yeah,
that to be the peacemaker all of a sudden.
Well, and that's what I can't figure out. Like, is it? Because look, here's what I look at. Like, let's boil it down to war is about money. And when you think about it, right? Like, what is the point of war? It's taking over territory. It's about dollars. Defense people make a bunch of money. If everybody got along and countries got along and we had commerce between one another, like, kind of creates the same effect, right? Yes, exactly. Then more lives are saved. Like, it's terrible what's happening all of this war right now. So I don't know if he's trying to like come at it from that perspective because he is losing favor because the people in China are just like, well, we don't want to be in a war.
They also don't want to be starving.
Right.
Is such a bad way right now.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if he is on shaky political ground there.
Yeah.
And if the Taiwan plan to go and eventually, quote unquote, retake Taiwan, that may have been put on the back burner. You can't put it on too far because if he waits too long, it may be a Trump presidency he runs into. And at that point in time, he doesn't want that conversation. Yeah,
I mean, that's an interesting. I don't know. That's a good question. Like, I didn't really think through that much.
Like, would he? If we'll get into this too, but if the winds of change start to go the Trump way the next 6 months, really go that way to the point where world leaders are looking at that and putting a high percentage that there's going to be a Trump presidency, can she afford to wait until a Trump presidency to deal with the Taiwan issue? Because at that point, he may have to push that off another 40 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not going to do it on a Trump regime, I could tell you. So Yeah, but is he going to do it that quickly? I don't know. It's hard because there's so much going on right now. There's so many moving parts, and it's like hard to figure out what is actually going on. Like, think about it. Like, I was just listening to a podcast on the way here, and they were talking about like Ukraine war happened, so we all forgot about the pandemic and COVID, right? Like, no one's wearing masks anymore. Like, everyone's like, oh, Ukraine's the new thing we need to talk about. Now it's like the stuff going on in the Middle East. It's like we haven't even talked about Ukraine. Like, what's going on there? Like, think about it. When was the last time you saw somebody on Facebook or in your circles or in the news really do an in-depth post or story about what's going on in Ukraine since October 7th?
And what scares me is someone who does
Mhm.
look at the right and wrong that I can surmise from that. I would generally say
Mhm.
that there's a lot more innocence of Ukrainians that have been killed in this process
Yeah.
against Russia. So I kind of hope that Ukraine would somehow end up better in the end there.
Mhm.
But I think what may happen is now that the world spotlight's off, Putin can keep throwing bodies and just
Yeah.
throwing bodies in and slowly kind of like win that conflict,
Mhm.
maybe somewhat under the radar.
Yeah, it's really interesting right now with all these conflicts going on, and what the end result is going to be. Like, I don't know, because I feel like we're getting drawn into it, right? They keep hitting us. They keep bombing. Iran keeps bombing us, or Iran, like extensions of Iran are doing shit. Proxies, that's the word I'm looking for. They're doing stuff. They're yeah. Listen, man, it's only Tuesday, but it's been a week. My brain's
I'm playing the canvas over here that doesn't exist.
okay. Yeah, I mean, my it's also true, right? My brain's a little bit fried today, but yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff going on. So it's like, are they trying to draw us in? Because like then we do something, we bomb like a munitions depot, and they're like, well, fuck it, let's do another drone strike. It's not deterring what's happening.
No.
Our response isn't deterring the conduct, so it's like they're trying to just draw us in.
Yeah, and it's like, and I don't know whether to agree with the Biden philosophy on this or not. I don't know enough to know. Are we tempering our response, trying to hit them strategically too? Because I really do believe that when it comes to dictatorships, especially in the Middle East, the only thing they seem to respect is blunt force and strength.
Yeah.
So if we did nothing and let them, although in the big picture is it hurting America? Probably not much. But if we don't respond, it really telegraphs complete weakness. But in our limited response, is that enough to deter the bullshit from?
I mean, it hasn't deterred it as of yet, so it obviously isn't.
The Iranian problem, because I think the Iranian problem is going to take a big sledgehammer from us. I don't mean nuclear, but it's going to take a big military sledgehammer to push them back long enough to reconsider doing it. But I don't know if the current administration has the stomach for it.
Well, and that's the only way to get peace in the Middle East, right? You got to do something with Iran. We're plain and simple in the Ayatollahs.
Yeah, in this era,
that's the only way. You cannot have total Middle East peace without dealing with Iran, in my opinion.
We have for decades decided to kick the can down the road.
Right, that's exactly it. It's kicking the can down the road. That's exactly it, and it's unfortunate because that's where we are, and we keep kicking it down the road.
Let's talk a little bit about both political parties. So, well, I mean.
Yeah, let's talk.
I wonder when we have all these conversations, you and I on off air, but even with our constituents and friends, and we talk about the candidates in the Republican Party that are going, and I like this one, but take 20 steps back and look at it. Is it all for naught? Is this Trump so far ahead that statistically the rest of them, barring him being incarcerated, having a health issue, the lead's almost insurmountable. Are they all just playing for a vice presidential position?
In my opinion, I mean, I don't think they know that's what they're playing for, but that's what they're playing for. Look at, when you have someone like Michael Rappaport, who was a huge, and then he put that video out. He's like, I hate the man, but Biden, like Sleepy Joe, what the fuck are you doing? I would vote for Trump right now.
I think he's not alone.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think there's a lot of people that is.
On the left looking around going, and it goes back to that very clever political mantra that the Clintons introduced, I think, in 91, 92. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago?
And most people would probably say no.
If people could be honest with themselves and ask now, I would venture most working class American people
Mhm.
probably would say, no, life costs me more and there's more uncertainty.
Yeah.
And slash at times more fear of crime and everything else than it was 40 years ago.
Oh, 100. I mean, I just watched the video before before we sat down to speak. It was showing. It was a video. I think it was on Fox. Retail theft, like just these kids running in a Nike outlet and just taking bags of stuff and no one doing anything about it. It's like retail theft. Like how have we gotten to a place in this country where it's on video on a major news network and nothing's done? And there's like, yeah, it's accepted now. Like what the fuck?
And the thing is, too, it's like that stuff. I mean, it's just, you don't need a degree in economics to understand that stuff contributes to higher
Correct.
inflation.
I mean that
100%.
yeah. I mean think about if you're a small business owner, right? Like you own. We'll say you own a small boutique shop, okay, and we'll just say in Pittsburgh where we live, right? And you have someone that comes in and robs your store, right? Takes merchandise. Well, how do you make up the cost of that? You increase the price on the other merchandise you sell to make up the shortfall. You're not going to eat it, right? You're going to because insurance probably is going to cover the loss. They're going to cover the,
You might not even file based upon
correct. So it's like, what do you do? So that's why costs go up. Like the inflation is one thing, but a lot of the rise in costs, in my opinion, is to offset loss. Like we're letting people just rob fucking Targets in like, cool. Like we're not going to stop them. Like, what are you it doesn't make any sense to me. We've gotten to a scary place in this country. Like I thought about that. Like I was watching this video and I'm like, I've been in like outlets before. Like there's one in the Tanger outlets. I'm like, what would I do if I was in that store with my daughters while this is happening? Like what do you do? Like I would want to stop those people, right? And prevent that from happening, but I don't own the business. Like, right, like I'm gonna protect my children, but there's the morality side of me that's like, this is wrong, and we're just letting it happen. Like I'm a bystander letting a crime happen. Like I should stop them, but it's like if the company and the police or whatever is not going to stop them, security is not going to stop them. Why should I? And it's a dilemma. Like when you think about it, it's a dilemma. It's a moral dilemma.
The excuse making that is out there for even the idea of shoplifting is multifaceted.
Well, yeah, the stuff those arguments are completely ridiculous, I think, in my opinion. Well,
we need to rebalance this on our podcast.
Yeah, I mean, again, like there's other ways to solve that problem, in my opinion. I mean, when you think about it,
you can't equate stealing a pair of Air Jordans stealing a loaf of bread for you.
Correct. Yes.
Right? There's a moral relativism.
That's exactly right. Yeah. If I saw people that were down their luck and they were stealing food to feed their family, I would understand, right? Like I would get that because I would, if push came to shove and that was my only option, I would do the exact same thing. But stealing Air Jordans or TVs that are not necessities or Louis Vuittons or it's not necessity. So how do you justify that saying, well, they're doing that for their family? No, they're not.
We're going to circle back around to the envy thing. I think that's envy is certainly why people loot. On the Democrat side, it's still very interesting, but there's a lot of heat, and it started to turn this week. I noticed on the more moderate to liberal networks that there are special guests and commentators and shows, especially on CNN, where you are seeing now some of these traditional Democratic icons. David Axelrod, one of them.
Yeah, I saw.
Really pushing back on Biden's competency.
Yeah.
Through the guise of talking about his age. But it really is about his wherewithal and his competence.
Correct.
And you saw Biden, which I thought was telling, called him a prick. Like, and it was, a public proclamation.
Yep.
And that does not play into the that further exacerbates the concept that he's an angry old man.
100%. Yeah, if you can't see that, you're not even looking. Like he cannot be the nominee. He won't be the nominee. Yeah, he won't be the nominee in that party because think about it. Like again, I'll go back to the Michael Rappaport example. That guy was the staunch far left supporter of Biden. And when you got guys like him that are very vocal in entertainment saying you're doing a fucking terrible job, so bad that I fucking hated Trump, and I basically said he was the most vile human being. If it came down to a vote today, I'd vote for him. Right. Like, it's on the table. Like that's when you know, when you're the party, you're like, we fucked up. Yeah.
Add now the split within his own party, spurred on by the Israel, Palestinian.
Yeah.
Now you've got a lot of strange bedfellows in the Democratic Party. Some in the Republican, the conservative side, but not as many as the liberal side right now.
Take someone like The Rock. So I just listened to his podcast with Joe Rogan. So he publicly supported Joe Biden when he was running. He went online on Instagram, throughout his public support. He would not state on that podcast that he or his friends were supporters of Biden. They were supporters of the party. So look at how that's turned in 3 years.
And on that particular podcast, and I recommend that to anybody to see that did. I don't know if it broke the internet. They thought it would eventually break the internet if those two got together. But to Rogan's credit, he asked him point blank, is in the conversation, I think The Rock said, I have friends that support Trump and I have friends that support Biden. And Rogan interjected, do you really have friends that support Biden?
Yeah, that's exactly what he did.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Be very clear. I have friends that support the party.
Exactly.
He made that different.
He just made a distinction.
He wanted to do that.
And that's telling right there. When you have someone that has that many followers, they wanted him to run for president. He said one of the parties came to him. He didn't say which one, came to him and had all the data and, said you should run, consider running. And he's also the one that publicly supported Biden 3 years ago. And now is making sure that the people that listen to Joe Rogan understand they don't support Biden, they support the party. So it's right. But that's the thing that it's changing. Oh yeah, he was. I mean, he's an impressive speaker. Like I don't.
Yeah, he definitely is an impressive marketer.
Yeah.
He's an impressive businessman. He's an impressive entertainer. I'm not a big wrestling fan, right?
Yeah.
He's good at that too.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that the infighting within the Democratic Party has to be the things that we don't see. Yeah, that's what really fascinates me. We've talked about it many times. I would love to know, has whoever the person of power is, and that's a whole different conversation, has the power in the party, have they walked in and told Biden, you're not the answer? Have they told him, it's no, you can't do this? Or is that on the verge of happening? And again, who is the person who will do that? Isn't that seem fascinating?
Yeah, I mean, the latter, I don't know. The former, I would probably venture to say it has happened.
Has Kamala been told as well?
I haven't even heard from her or about her in months. Like has she had any relevant news other than gaffes?
I think that's the little outlier here that hasn't reared its ugly head yet. I mean, I don't mean it disrespectfully. I don't think that the issue of her viability hasn't reared its ugly head yet, and that's going to be another maneuver that has to take place on their part. Well,
I think everybody knows she's not capable. I mean, I think she knows she's not capable. That's why I think she's just probably keeping her head down and staying out of the limelight. Biden can't, but Biden's a different animal. Like I think Kamala is definitely. I think she's intelligent enough to know that. Yeah, that she's not the right fit, and no matter what, in kicking and screaming about it, isn't going to do anything. Like if she supports whatever decision they make, then she has, political capital to utilize down the road. That's how I see it.
It'll take some foresight on her behalf to look at the lay of the land and see what's best for her ultimately. The question is, can she do that? That's the.
I would think so, but time will tell.
It would be fascinating that if the existing president, vice president are completely replaced by a new. I mean, you have a basic.
It's going to happen.
Primary.
It's going to happen. Yes, it's going to happen. I believe that neither one of those two will be on the ticket.
Man, and time is running out, dude. We are less than a year from the freaking election.
We will get through the holidays, and I would venture to say between January and March in the first quarter. Something happens where Biden is not going to do it and Kamala is going to not, and they're going to have new people. Mark my words.
Okay, so so for that to happen,
Mhm.
there will have to be a self-capitulation of each of those individuals. They're
Mhm.
going to have to pronounce
Mhm.
because they're gonna be the ones that want to tell the public that. No one is going to. Who would have the authority to come on the air like this person, XYZ person, comes on and goes, I'm making an announcement that both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are not going to be the nominees for the Democratic Party. I mean, who would
I
be
mean,
that
the
person?
DNC. I mean, they're going to say they're not the nominee. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know all the political workings of how the internal politics of the party work, but that's what it's see. Like, he's not going to run.
We may what may be revealed through this upcoming circumstances who's really pulling this, or maybe we'll get an insight of who might really be pulling the strings.
May.
People pulling the strings in that administration.
Yeah, I mean, we may get that. I tend to think that we are at a dangerous place in this country, and I think whomever wins the next election, be it a Democrat or Republican, has to right the ship, has to get this country back on track. Don't fucking worry about everything else, all the foreign policy. Fix our country. Get the homeless people off the street. Help the veterans. Help children. Help our first responders. Get this country back to the way it used to be. And we have a little bit of law and order in here, and we have some rules in society. Then we can focus on helping the rest of the world. That's what we need. We need somebody, either party. Like, I don't care. I want someone that can come back to normal, sensical American values. That's what we need. Not this bullshit climate change. This let's send $10 billion to Iran, but tell them you can't use it for guns and ammo. Okay, that's like you giving me $100 and saying, don't spend that $100 on beer, but I have $100 in my pocket already. Okay, I'll just spend that $100 on beer.
Let's talk about social issues for a second. I would love to see an administration and a Congress that would not take the whims of a very infinitesimally small portion of our society and start trying to legislate based upon those ideas.
Correct. Yes, I agree with that.
Let's look at solid ideas with a great amount of groundswell and support.
Yeah.
Weigh them out, debate them, and then put them in the law.
I mean, yeah. I mean, majority rules. I mean, that's how I look at it. Like,
that's how our system is.
If you have a corporation, right, and you have a vote of the shareholders, most bylaws of a corporation say the majority of the shareholders get to make the decision, right? So you are the majority of the shareholders. We are saying that, hey, if you are the loudest shareholder that has hurt feelings, we're going to make decisions that benefit you. Like, that's kind of how, if you look at it from a purely objective standpoint, operating it like a business, if there's 100 shareholders in a company and we have 2 of them that are like, fuck this place, shit's got to change because I feel upset about this. The rest of the shareholders, well, there's like 80 of them are like, I don't really give a fuck one way or the other. It's the 20% that are kind of running the organization say, well, they're loud and we want to keep them happy. Let's do what they want. Meanwhile, it doesn't benefit anybody.
100%. And I think really it's going to really come down to legislating with our human feelings not being at the forefront of the system. If we get back to some semblance of not letting the whims of a few dominate the lives of the many. Right. If we get to that point, and then again, and that's not saying anyone should be discriminated against or anything else like that in any capacity. I don't believe in any of that.
No, not at all.
I don't believe in forcing ideas and policies that are simply the ideas of a very small amount on the masses. Yeah, it's not working.
It's gotten to the point where I'm waiting for my kids to come home from school one day and say, I didn't get any questions wrong on my math test because if you get a wrong answer, you'll be upset. So they don't want anybody to be upset. So all the answers are right. Like, every answer is right. It's like, that's where we're going. That's what I feel like we're doing. Like, we're so concerned with feelings and making sure no one has hurt feelings that like everything's acceptable now. So if I go into a classroom and I'm a second grader and I keep putting 2 + 2 = 7, and you keep telling me it's wrong, and I keep crying, and I cry long enough and loud enough, are you now going to tell me 2 + 2? Yeah, it's 7. It's definitely 7. Yes, we want you to not that. That's how I mean, break it down to the simple logic of what's going on, right? We are basically saying, I am this. I think this way. even though it's mathematically wrong, we don't want you to be upset. So we're going to say, yeah, for you and everybody else here, now 2 + 2 is 4, and it's also 7. So either one of those is right. Like, that's where the fuck we are.
Yeah, that nonsense.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Yes. Yeah.
There's been multiple times both of our lives, we look back and seen celebrities, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's actors, actresses, enter the political fray whenever they feel right. I've always believed that, yes, regardless of whether they rub up against my sensibilities or agree with them, they have the right to do it.
Yeah, sure.
Because I have the right to do it.
Yeah, of course.
But I always wonder about, from a business standpoint, their careers and sometimes the companies that they form under their name and success.
Yeah.
Is it a wise decision? And time in and time out, in most instances, it ends up not being. Susan Sarandon is the latest. Not a big star anymore, but she.
Yeah, she was in Bull Durham, right? Bull Durham was the last movie I remember with her.
Yes, and the one where they drove the car with
Thelma and Louise. Yeah.
She did pro-Palestine, and we got very, very controversial and vocal about it, and it didn't land well with obviously the pro-Israel people. And now she's done damage, to her reputation.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is it really? I wonder, is it really worth it? They have the right, but is it really worth it? And why do we pay so much attention to them?
Because they're celebrities
on those topics.
Well, I just think it's not because it's those topics, because they're so. I don't think we pay attention to them because of the topics. We pay attention to them because they're celebrities, and they use the topics to draw more attention to them when they become irrelevant. Like, because think about it, if you didn't, I would have never thought of Susan Sarandon again in my life if you wouldn't have mentioned her right now. And my last thought was like, she was the woman in Bull Durham. Like that. That's how relevant she is to me. But now she's back in the social conscious because she took it. Maybe I'm not even that. I just think there are a lot of people that inject themselves into debates, political debates, like socioeconomic debates, that don't really know what they're talking about. Like I don't know enough about Israel and Hamas and Palestine and all of the shit behind it to sit here and take a hard stance one way or the other. I just don't know enough. Like, whatever's happening is terrible. I get that. Like, right. But I can't sit there and say, this is absolutely 100% wrong, or this is absolutely 100% wrong, because I don't know enough. So I'm not going to sit here and articulate an opinion or a position on something that I don't fully understand. That's how I operate. Like, I'm not going to do that. Some people think they have enough information to make their opinion relevant.
Well, they feel they must have information on it.
Correct. That's exactly right. We've talked about it a million times. Like, you don't need to.
They don't have to understand the idea of appropriate indifference.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, exactly. Like, we talk about this all the time. Like, they're like, even when it comes to food, right? Like, I fucking hate pumpkin pie. Other pies, I have no opinion on. Like, but that's how I look at it. It's like people are like, why do you hate pumpkin pie? Do you hate pie? I'm like, no, like, I don't care about pie. It's pumpkin pie. Because pumpkin's something you fucking carve, not eat. Right. It's like, but it's like a lot of people say, I hate all pies.
Pumpkin spice coffee. Like, why?
Listen, pumpkin beer. I mean, I don't know. It's just, but you're right. Like, I think people think they have to have an opinion on everything, and you don't.
Okay. Back to Andy.
Okay.
So Elon Musk.
I fucking love that dude.
A tweet that he, in terms of basically outlined in this essay, the way I read it, that said that, damn it, I don't want to butcher it. So in light of not butchering it, I think it basically in the end was interpreted as being anti-Semitic. When I read the context of the tweet, it didn't come off to be overtly anti-Semitic. It basically was talking about, to my understanding, and I will preface this by saying I might not be exactly right if I am assuming, but don't assume. But I'm just saying, I have an attorney.
Right, exactly.
I think what it was basically addressing, the author of the tweet, was that for a long time, the Jewish contingent of Americans have voted Democratic and have considered themselves liberal in philosophy.
Okay.
They've donated a lot of money to these Ivy League schools where a lot of these protests are currently happening.
Yeah.
And author of the tweet was saying, look, they've been okay with some radical liberal protests and movements, but now all of a sudden it's not falling in favor of them. It's actually falling in favor of their enemy. And Musk was saying, yeah, you can't have it both ways. I think that's what he was agreeing with, which could be viewed as a rational thought if you didn't have an iron in the fire, looking to
yes, correct.
That's been conflated into being he's anti-Semitic, and now that he's the most wealthy man with all these advertising dollars, all the advertisers are being pulled, he's threatening to sue Media Matters. He broke the story. What I want to state is, I think it goes back to that common thread that seems to disrupt society all the time, and not just recently. It's been around for man's on the planet, and that's the idea of like our amounts of envy is just we just cannot control it. We are so obsessed by envy. It appears to me that we are, and it just seems that where it's ugly headed in all aspects of society. Here's another example.
Yeah. Well, I think also just because he's been such a groundbreaking person, right? He's been such a pioneer, and I think people just can't even compare themselves to him. So it's like, let's take him down. Let's.
Why? It has to be envy.
Oh yeah, it is envy. It's again, it's instead of people like I look at people that do amazing things as motivating. It's like, fuck, like I gotta do more. Like I look at it as like, well, they fucking he's fucking building spaceships. Like he built a Cybertruck that withstands bullets and arrows. Like that's what Joe Rogan said. And he said, why did you do it? He's like, because it's cool. Like literally no other reason to make the truck bulletproof or arrow-proof, because it's fucking cool. And the other thing he said is the tip of the SpaceX rocket, he wanted to look like the one in Spaceballs. Like that's the shit the dude does, and it's like that's fucking awesome to me. Yeah, I mean it's awesome to me. And it's like that should inspire people. That one man could do these things and be that groundbreaking and pioneering. That should inspire everybody to think like, if you just tapped into a little bit more of your potential, what you could be doing in life.
Well, but again, it's funny. Like life makes strange bedfellows. Like here's the guy who basically has been the most successful electric automobile inventor ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay? Which you would think those with a left view philosophy.
Well, I would love him.
Would love it.
Yeah. Yep.
But he is the person that gets attacked all the time, especially now that he acquired Twitter.
Yep.
Turned it into X, and then exposed our government's in bed. And the philosophy that our government was exuding at that time was the ruling philosophy of liberalism. And he's showing the disparity in content delivered to the American people.
Exactly.
Like it or hate it, he's just showing the facts of it.
Yeah.
So they want to brand him. Well, he's not a liberal. He's a conservative. Well, label him what you want.
Yeah.
He's just putting the facts out. I do think though it really is a commentary on we are just not everyone, but a good portion of our population is consumed by envy, even in our older age. We need to let that shit go, or learn when we're younger it's not the best way to live.
No, it's I mean, think about the energy it takes to be envious of people, or so if you channel that energy in a different way, think about how much farther along in life you'd be. Like, I mean, I think about that because look, we all get envious when we're younger, right? It's kind of it's part of human nature, right? You care what other people think, like you want to, you're comparing yourself to other people. We just had this discussion today in the office. It's like, and I didn't figure that out to my mid-30s. Like, who gives a shit? Like, if I would have figured that out in my mid-20s, like I'd be so much farther ahead than I am right now. But we get caught up in it. We get caught up in it because, one, I think humans are competitive by nature. Two, we're observers by nature, right? So we're always observing other people. Then we're comparing them to ourselves.
Yeah.
And envy stems from our own inadequacies. Like, I think just we need to look at, okay, what can I improve upon? Not how can I attack the person who's better than me? What can this person motivate me to improve upon?
You can flip the envy into admiration.
Yeah.
You don't want to. You don't want to admire a scoundrel who
No.
stole his way to his fortune. But I mean, people that generally admiration for their accomplishments. It's so first grade to envy them and ultimately maybe want to see them fall.
Yeah.
As opposed to admiring what they're doing, or even just respecting it.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Learning and taking elements from it, or using that as, even if it's not a full-on motivation, you take bits and pieces and incorporate that into your own story.
Yeah. Well, and just understanding the stories, right? Like just listening to the Rocks podcast, like how he literally came from nothing, like, and then just really just worked his way to where he is through sheer work ethic. Like that's motivating, inspiring. Like this, it's not like he was born in the money. His dad was a pro wrestler, didn't make anything. He failed at football. He got into wrestling. He was almost failed at that, and then just kind of kept recreating himself. Now he's like the biggest star on the planet, and all out of pure grit, persistence, and determination. Like that should motivate anybody. Yeah, like Elon Musk. Like think about where he came from. Like created PayPal, sold all of it, and put all of his money into Tesla and SpaceX. Like bet everything on 2 ventures that were untested. And you're like, you want to make electric cars and go into fucking space. All the money you just made on PayPal, he could have just walked away and been good and like done nothing for the rest of his life, made a shit ton of money. Yeah. I mean, yes, like what the fuck? Like this dude's like bet it all. Like that's amazing to me. It's inspiring. We need to get rid of, like, again, I think we get so there's such a negative energy in this country right now, stemming from the media, stemming from just conversations, right? And I think that's why I try and remove myself from negative conversations. I try and remove negative people from my life. I always get depressed after these podcasts. I'm like, oh, talking fucking politics, and like I love talking it, but it's just like, oh, it's draining. But it is. I mean, let's think about it. Like, all kidding aside, right? These discussions are mentally draining because we're not talking about puppies and rainbows. We're talking about the problems of this country, and we're talking about the shit that needs fixed. And it's scary because we both have children that are growing up in this world, that are grown-ups in this world. It's like, well, this is the shit we're leaving them. How do we fix it? And that's the scary part. And it's like we are, so I think because we're so negatively charged, by default, that envy is the default emotion. Admiration should be the default, but it's envy because we're negatively charged. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
People don't know any better.
And I would venture to say that any good teacher you had when you were young, showed you the way to be curious as opposed to envious.
Yes. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Your parents probably taught you that when you were young, I'm guessing. You see probably examples all the time of people taking ideas and running with them. That came out of curiosity, not envy.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
You can find your motivation anywhere, right? But I think what it really comes down to is finding out what works, observing what works, taking bits and pieces, maybe a lot, maybe a little. Yeah. Finding a way to incorporate it in your own story. But we are so drenched in jealousy, envy. Yeah. And I think that's unfortunately at times rules today. And I'm not saying it's important in social media. I think it's always been around. Oh yeah. I think we get so much thrown at us constantly. There's more opportunities to be envious of what we perceive to be success. Yeah, and again, people spend so much time focusing on what they don't have instead of focusing on getting what they want. Yeah. Like that's how I look at it. Like there are so many people and people I know in my circles that I've spoken to that get so depressed and down and waste so much energy and time, pondering the things they don't have and why they're not where they want to be, instead of just saying, let me reverse engineer how to get there. Let me put this time and energy into figuring out how to get where I want to go and get what I want, as opposed to using it to sulk in my own self-pity as to why I'm not where I want to be or have what I want to have. Like that's how I look at it. Steelers fired McKenna. I haven't been watching. Rocco is not like Rocco is a Steelers fan, but he's not crazy. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. But I want to ask you a question, Mike. Okay. Because it's a good way to end the show because it's like the whole town. I mean, now you're cognitive of like some of the stuff that went on today. Like, yeah, sure. It just was all. It was all over the place. I mean, I have to tell you, it's been a good portion of my off day today listening to the fans. It was just hysterical. Yeah, I don't listen to anything. And I don't revel. I'm not reveling in God getting terminated. But I mean, just getting paid a couple $1 million to sit at home now, so I don't feel too bad about it. My point is, isn't it interesting that how important Like, here's an example. You have a football organization.
Yeah.
It's a corporation.
Mhm.
And these are management people in different
Mhm.
positions.
Yeah.
And the same rules of setting up a structure of an organization are on full display for the public.
Mhm.
It's still the same. They have to follow the same principles as any regular your firm, any
Yeah.
corporation.
Mhm.
And you're only as good as your directors,
Mhm.
managers.
Yeah.
It's really no different than a corporation.
Yeah.
It's on full display.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had this discussion earlier today. I said, as our firm grows, right, and I said, no one will do more than me, right? So I have to set the pace, and then the people below me that are running departments eventually, no one will do more than them. So you got to set the pace. Like, it all starts at the top. That's every organization, be it a sports organization or a company. You have to set the tone and the pace. So if the top is failing, the organization is going to fail. So how do you fix it? You remove the top if you can, or you make a change at the top. And that's what usually happens. It is just like a corporation. I mean, it's exactly like how a business runs.
It's just on display.
Yeah, it's more visible, right? And people will comment on it and do and say what they want, and have their own opinions, because everybody knows how to run a football team. Apparently, like, everybody in the city knows.
Yeah. I mean, it was without getting into the details of it, do you think the public pressure, the fan base pressure, just the public pressure?
Yeah.
Do you think that played into the Rooney's decision?
I think if any city in this country that could happen, this is the one, because our fans are fucking wild, and like they again, like, we are loyal fans and we are fucking disloyal fans. Like, if our team's shitty, like, everybody's fucking up in arms. If our team's playing well, it's like, yes, we're all fucking, so and everybody that's thinks they know what's best for the organization. They may have never run an organization or ran a football team, but I do think, like, if any city that was going to happen, it's this city that could influence them.
Do you consider professional sports entertainment, or is it in a different class?
Well, define entertainment.
You hear Vince McMahon of the World Wrestling Federation 40 years ago decided that wrestling, because he would always get confronted.
Yeah. Well, that is entertainment. There were storylines. There was theories.
He said it became sports entertainment.
Okay.
And the argument's been made over time that the NFL has got legitimacy because they need it for the gambling aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a lot of theatrics with the celebrations and the pageantry and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder, like, what is the clear line between a sporting event, a finite,
I can tell you,
and the entertainment?
So I look at, like, football is sports that have an element of entertainment. Wrestling is sports entertainment, because in wrestling, entertainment is the focus, right? It's the storylines, the characters, theatrics. Like, there's no, like, again, I hate keep going back to the Rock's podcast. We talked about the first, like, I think it was a Royal Rumble he was in, like, his first, like, big match. They said, you're going to win tonight. Like, they told him that. So, like, everybody, all these big names had to let him fucking win. So that's not sports. That's entertainment, right? There's a sporting aspect. That's entertainment with a sporting aspect. Football is sports with an entertainment aspect, because it's truly, you don't know who's going to win the game. It's the better team wins the game. I believe it's not, it's not predetermined. But there is that theatrical nature to it. But I think, there are two totally different things, because pro wrestling was always about, it's the storyline. It's like a soap opera tied around wrestling.
Yes.
Like, let's get some big dudes that beat the shit out of each other, and let's make them have good guys, bad guys, love, hate, rise and fall, and the comeback. It was all the story arcs of characters throughout fiction novels and movies, just weaved into wrestling. We don't have that in NFL. Like, you have characters and theatrics, but truly, like, it's unscripted. It's like, yeah, you just go out there and play. The better team wins. That's how I look at it. I don't think it's entertainment.
So you're saying that football is a legitimate content?
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yes. Yes, correct. Yes, it better fucking be, because if I bet on those games and they're scripted, that's some bullshit. That's all I'm saying. Because it is. It's a legitimate contest. You don't know the win. You don't know who's going to win. Well, I mean, there's conspiracy theory for everything, man. Like, let's be real. Yeah, it's really what's and the Earth's flat. I'm telling you. No, I'm kidding. Did we go to the moon either? Too. That's the whole other thing. That is definitely a rabbit hole.
Are you actually? Let me ask you that, because I've gone on record many times. I've said that I question whether we went to the moon the first time or at all, but definitely the first time. And I think you looked at me sideways the first time I said that to you about 5 years ago. I mean, have you gone down any?
Dude, there's some rabbit holes I went down. I mean, so I went on rabbit holes, and I would say if the information in the rabbit holes has some semblance of truth, then yeah, I would question it. My whole thing is, why haven't my biggest question, because I never really thought about it, right? Because you think, okay, we're in the moon, cool, but why haven't we went back? And then when I watched a video of some dude from NASA basically saying, we don't have the technology. I'm like, how? When we had landlines and 8-track players, and now we have literally a phone that can do everything this big in my hand. We don't have the technology today to get to the moon. Like, how?
So we're supposed to believe that they basically put a couple guys in a tin can.
Yeah.
1969 computer technology, which my father was in the 70s, early 70s, was in a computer class where they used to have big reel-to-reel tapes that would move, banks of them, rooms of them.
Yeah.
But somehow we're going to put these guys in a tin can and get through the Van Allen belt of radiation and then come back. I mean, it's a hard one for me to have confidence in.
Yeah, and then I saw the whole conspiracy about Stanley Kubrick as the one that filmed the moon landing, and I was just like, I'm like, either these people put really good videos together and make compelling arguments, I'm just a fool, or this is actually the truth.
Well, we are there powerful telescopes that we have on this planet Google that could maybe zoom in on the moon and look at the rover we left up there, and one of the where can we see the flag?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, why haven't those things
that's a good point
shown to us, the footprints? If we have all this and we have all this, they're mapping the moon. Google and these
why haven't we seen that?
We haven't. I don't know. I'm just
I want to believe we went to the moon.
It's a great story.
Yeah, I want to believe it, and it's like,
we haven't gone back. And maybe we went and we were told not to come back.
Well, that's the whole other thing, because I went on that rabbit hole too. It's like there's like, maybe we went and we're like, oh fuck, we shouldn't be here because there's some shit up here that doesn't want us here, and it's like,
scientific friend, what did you? Eric, you're out of here, guys. It's a good yarn to think about.
It definitely gives you something to think about. Like, if you really go down the rabbit hole a little bit, and it's a lot of it's just like common sense questions. Like, like, how did we go then with the technology, landline phones, and how do we call from the moon to the president? Like, and how did that happen? Like, how? I can't get a signal on this road, like around the curve, until I get to the main area. Like, literally, I can't talk to anybody. It's dead. But yet they were able to call from the fucking moon down here on a landline. But I have a Apple, which I just bought, an Apple 15, brand new cell phone, that I can't get a signal in Moon Township on this fucking windy road back here. Like, do the math. Like, I don't get that. Like, please explain this to me.
All right, just to end it on that, I'll share this. I don't think I ever shared it. My father was on the USS Hornet.
Okay.
And they picked up the capsule.
Okay.
And he always, when they never talked about it.
Yeah.
He never really, I don't think, had a deep opinion. But I remember when I was little, he told my uncle at a dinner one time, and the family, talking to my uncle, and I'm sitting there, and my dad goes, "Yeah, we picked up that capsule, and they quarantined the guys on it, but something wasn't right. I can't put my finger on it, but just something wasn't right." And I remember they were trying to bounce it, but it didn't happen. And I remember my father just said, "Yeah, it's just I You know, something just wasn't on the square.
Interesting.
And I've always had that little in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I never really, I don't know why, I never really brought it up again and questioned my father as I got older about it. But yeah, I remember him saying that.
Interesting.
Well,
Well,
what it's worth.
Well, and probably when we leave here, the men in suits will be outside waiting for us. They're like, well, let's erase their memory.
Right, partner.
It was good. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Again, we'll see again next Tuesday.
Yeah. After Thanksgiving. Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah.
I think we're clear.
I don't know if travel schedule good, man. Yeah.
Again, as always, we appreciate it very much. Appreciate the feedback.
Yep.
Let's have it, good or bad. We don't
Yeah. Yep.
We're out, friends.
See ya. Let's see.